similar formula, but double potency. So for most people,
Yeah.
that might be a single capsule per day. That's one that could be taken, for example, if you're recovering from antibiotic therapy. That's one to be considered. There's also higher potency strains. It's not necessarily, when it comes to probiotics, that always more is better in terms of number. We like to have a wide variety of strains because different strains do different things for us. And so to make sure you're getting a consistent intake, always meeting those recommended intakes on all of your vitamins and minerals, plus things like antioxidants that you might get from superfoods. In addition to vitamin and minerals, there's whole food concentrates that deliver those kinds of nutrients. And so it really does complement or tune up even a healthy diet.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Healthy Habit Podcast for episode number 112 with Dr. Kate Rhéaume here, and I'm your host, Dr. Dayan of Healthy Habit Medical Center. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Author and naturopathic doctor is with us here today, Kate Rhéaume, who's a graduate and former faculty member of the CCNM, Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto. Dr. Kate lectures internationally on many topics related to health and wellness, and she's a frequent guest on radio and TV across North America. She's the author of the best-selling book, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, How a Little-Known Vitamin Could Save Your Life. Today we're going to talk foundational health with Dr. Kate, who's also a naturopathic physician like us here at Healthy Habit Clinic. Welcome back, Dr. Kate. Thanks for being great and coming back on and doing this all these years with us.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. Super happy to be back on the show.
Well, let's dive right into it then on foundational health. You know, we know a healthy diet's critical, right, to maintain health and wellness. But what are some must-have supplements that can really help support this? You know, they're like the cherry on top that kind of round everything out. I think that's a good way to view supplements, right? It shouldn't replace a healthy diet, fitness, hydration, and sleep, right? But supplements it's a form of technology like cell phones that we can use in a positive way, correct?
Absolutely. And in some cases, enable us to get nutrients in optimal amounts that are really challenging to get, even through what we consider a good diet
Right.
or a well planned out diet. Some of these nutrients can be tough for lots of different reasons. And it's probably, it's one of the most frequently asked questions for people to say, well, what do I really need to be taking? Or what would be really helpful? Top three, or break it down in order of importance. That's a challenging question to answer because it depends on individuals to a certain extent, their health history, what's going on with them. But there definitely are nutrients, of course, as you know, Dr. Dayan, that are foundational, as you said, for all of us. All humans run on these nutrients.
There we go. What would you say some of those key ones are? Let's start from the top, and we're fully stocked and
Mhm.
ready here at Healthy Habit, and we're going to be discussing natural factors here with Dr. Kate. Wonderful company, actually out of Canada, that I've used a lot clinically for the last 6+ years, and customers come into the store every single day looking for natural factors products. So help guide us here, help steer the way.
First thing that comes to mind in terms of foundational nutrient would be omega-3 essential fatty acids. Those make up a part of and ultimately will be incorporated into every single cell membrane in our body. So this potentially impacts and supports health throughout the body, especially the brain. We know there's so much information and research on the omega-3s and the things they do for supporting and promoting and maintaining health of the brain, cardiovascular system, skin, for example. All of these things are important and tough to get through diet alone. We know, of course, there are plant-based sources from things like flax and chia, but those need to be converted in the body to the forms we actually use. The extent to which that happens varies per person. And when we can get the preformed omega-3s from fish, for example, well, even larger fish, things like salmon and herring, we're only supposed to eat those a couple times a week because they can be high in environmental contaminants. So a good quality omega-3 essential fatty acid supplement, those are purified to remove the contaminants normally found in fish and allows you to get those all important omega-3s in on a daily basis safely.
Right. I've observed this clinically and just comparing it to I'm very big on Japanese cuisine and Chinese medicine and Asian culture, how they eat and their supplementation and stuff like that. But you notice in sushi how much salmon is used in there. A little tiny chunk, right? And then
Mhm,
Americans, well, North Americans, Westerners, they're eating the big old fillet multiple times a week, which is
mhm.
really, I'm glad you hit on that it can be overdone, right?
Absolutely, yes, from a number of perspectives, and certainly there are recommendations to limit the portions you're eating of the larger fish, because even if they're
Wow.
wild caught,
There you go.
these environmental contaminants are still there. And so this is where a high quality omega-3 supplement comes in to get us those important omega-3s on a daily basis without the intake of the environmental contaminants that is found in fish.
Tell us about RX Ultra Strength Omega 3s. Let's dive right into that. The RX Omega line has just been uh, ahead of the game here when it comes to fish oil supplementation. They've been going strong here for years. So, this particular version gives you over 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams of EPA DHA per soft gel. Let's hear your thought on
Mhm.
RX Omega 3, specifically the Ultra Strength, and why would someone choose that versus the original strength?
So this really, you're right. The RX omega-3 has been leading the way for many years in terms of potency and purity. So as the technology evolved to be able to deliver more omega-3s per serving. So as you mentioned, the ultra strength now delivers over 2,000 or 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams per serving, which is two soft gels. So you typically take those, say, one twice a day with breakfast and dinner, something like that. So that's 2 grams of omega-3s that are um, providing the EPA and DHA. So these are the actual forms of omega-3s that we want and need and actually utilize in the body in different ways, as well as making sure that that is tested and retested. So at the end of when the product is made, as well as at the end of the shelf life of the product, that you have pure and potent, which means that it's tested to make sure the oils were not damaged, those sensitive, delicate fats were not damaged in the production process, which can happen, and to make sure that the contaminants that we want to get out of the fish oil aren't there. And that's really what people want to be looking for is the potency. They're getting as much of the omega-3s as they need to benefit, as well as doing so in a safe way.
And you can see here with, let me see, what Dr. Kate was referring to, that it removes the impurities such as mercury, the PCBs, and glyphosate, which can be found in commercially available fish products. So you're getting all the benefits from the fish that we need in the diet. They're essential without all the other stuff, correct?
That's exactly right. And again, this isn't to say to replace eating fish, but
Yes.
as I was saying, you can only do that with the larger fish. So often, smaller fish, things like salmon and anchovies, of course, being smaller, they're naturally lower in contaminants. Great choice for food intake. But certainly for people who are more concerned about maintaining healthy inflammation, maybe they're more concerned about long-term or even short-term cognitive health and maintaining that. Lipid levels, for example, is another thing. Areas where I've seen research around the omega-3s. This is where getting that in through a supplement really can make such a difference.
And again, this is the RX Omega 3, the Ultra Strength with vitamin D3 through natural factors. We have our whole fish oil EPA DHA section here at Healthy Habit. And our number here is 602 252 6000, folks. We ship nationwide. 602 252 6000. And for all the Phoenicians here, the Arizonians, we're located at 7th Street and Bethany Home Road here at 6029 North 7th Street in Phoenix, 6029 North 7th Street. So we covered the necessity. They're called essential fatty acids for a reason. They're literally needed for cell membrane health. And then that's, of course, critical for everything since our whole body has cells in it, right? So what about probiotics? Is there going to be similar effects more on the cell membranes, or what would the probiotic do differently that the omegas won't really touch on?
This is something completely different, still in the realm of foundational health, but from a completely different perspective. Of course, being a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Dan, you know that for a long time, one of the basic principles of naturopathic medicine is all health begins in the gut.
Yeah.
And as science has advanced, we know that is not a something that is nebulous or esoteric, but it's being proven to be absolutely true on so many levels. The microbiome plays such a major impact in the role of our health for immune function, even for things like mood, of course, for digestion. And so what we put into our gastrointestinal tract and how we maintain the ratio of bacteria in there is super important. With the advent of refrigerators, people are eating less fermented food, certainly in North America, very little fermented food compared to some cultures.
Right.
That impacts our gut health. So we want to be able to introduce healthy bacteria in a number of ways. Partly that will be through eating more fermented food, as well as probiotics is an excellent option. And of course, you want to maintain them by feeding them what they like, which is typically fiber.
Right. Apparently, bacterial cells outnumber human cells 10-1. I'm sure you've heard that over the years. Is that correct? They're that
They
numerous?
Sure do. Yes, as I'm sure from their perspective, it's their world, and we're just here to carry them around because they do absolutely outnumber us.
Right. So what can we get started with then for natural factors, maybe a general, I'm sure you have different ones available for just in case, let's say someone just got off a heavy course of antibiotics, right? They need something stronger. I'm sure there's different options available here with natural factors, correct, with probiotics. So where can we start?
Yeah, there are lots of different options, which is nice because people have different budgets, of course. They
Yeah.
have different microbiomes. And so it's not necessarily a one size fits all picture. The ultimate probiotic line, now there's a few different formulas in that line, but that one is a great, what I would call a broad spectrum probiotic. So there are strains in there that will target the small intestines, some that will target the large intestines. They're mostly what we call human origin strains, one or two plant or dairy origin, because those have been shown clinically to have some specific benefits in the body. And that's another thing, is to know that each of the strains in this formula have been specially selected for their proven clinical benefits. In other words, there's been some research done to show that those strains help us in some way, as well as testing for, again, potency. You're getting the number of bacteria colony forming units, or they're, that have ability to come alive once we ingest them, and that they survive digestion. There's tests done on that as well. And so that is really important, that it's well formulated and, again, tested and retested to make sure you're getting what you're paying for.
Amazing. So if we even head over to naturalfactors.com, folks, and in the search bar up here where the little magnifying glass is, just type in probiotic. And then you can even just see all the different options here. We have the critical care. There's the 24-12 formula. They even have the 100 billion critical care ultimate 9-stream formula. So, and then some have 12. There's the women's specific ones, right? Which helps restore healthy vaginal flora, intestinal restoration, especially for women specifically. So the Combiotic, which only has the 3 billion. So there's different different strains and different amounts. So again, obviously it depends on what's going on in one's life, correct? But as a general, you would start maybe with the 24-12 or the 12-12 over here?
Exactly. So the 12-12 general health maintenance, you'd usually be doing 1 to 2 of those capsules per day.
Yeah.
And that is, again, that balanced formula that I mentioned for the small and large intestines, with a mix of origin strains, and that can be taken with food. And then there is a similar formula but double potency. So for most people, that might be a single capsule per day. That's one that could be taken, for example, if you're recovering from antibiotic therapy. That's one to be considered. There's also higher potency strains. It's not necessarily, when it comes to probiotics, that always more is better in terms of number. We like to have a wide variety of strains because different strains do different things for us.
Yes, that's a very good point. Some people they pick up the 100 billion off the shelf and they say, does this mean it's better than the 24 billion or the 3 billion, right? Depends on what the goal is, correct?
Exactly. And often with those higher concentrations, you could say the 100 billion, there may be a few less strains just from a cost perspective.
Right.
There are times, again, maybe somebody has been through something like triple therapy or intense antibiotics therapy where they want those higher potencies. Again, it depends on the individual and their health goals. But that ultimate, either the 12 or the 24/12, those are great broad spectrum choices for people starting out with probiotics.
Right, because we're talking general health here, foundational health here today with
That's
Dr.
right.
Kate. So, as a good starting point, right, we're not talking if you just got off antibiotics. And again, this is never medical advice, right? Obviously, we both have seen our own patients over the years, but this is more general discussion information that you can even go deeper than after, right? Or even work with your own doctor if you currently have one and ask them about these formulas here that they can maybe help you pick one specific for you. So, perfect. We've highlighted the Ultimate Omega, the extra strength RX Omega-3, which has over 2 grams of the EPA DHA per soft gel. We mentioned the probiotic family here. And then highlight the Whole Earth and Sea multivitamins. I've taken these personally myself over the years. How important is it to have a good quality multivitamin in someone's lifestyle? Maybe with meals, you take a couple, not replacing meals. Again, we're highlighting that. But what are your thoughts on having a good quality multi?
Oh, definitely. I tend to think of it in my mind, it's like inexpensive health insurance. In other words,
Yeah.
you've got that buffer to bridge the gap between even a good, well planned out diet. There's variation in the foods that we're eating depending on where we're getting them from and time of year in terms of micronutrients. And so to make sure you're getting a consistent intake, always meeting those recommended intakes on all of your vitamins and minerals, plus things like antioxidants that you might get from superfoods. In addition to vitamin and minerals, there's whole food concentrates that deliver those kinds of nutrients. And so it really does complement or tune up even a healthy diet.
Amazing, Dr. Kate. Again, Whole Earth and Sea. It's part of that Natural Factors family. This is just their own separate brand, essentially, correct? Can you explain that a bit?
Absolutely, yes. So the Whole Earth and Sea is a unique, or you could say even premium brand within the Natural Factors line. So the same kind of quality that people know and trust from Natural Factors, with even more sophisticated formulas, sourcing the nutrients wherever possible or feasible that it makes sense from foods, for example. Many of those foods are grown on Whole Earth and Sea Farms, which is 1,000 acres of organic farmland in the beautiful Okanagan Valley. And the foods are concentrated as part of the whole food concentrate that I mentioned is already in that product. And then you can have things like iodine from kelp, or vitamin K2 from natto beans, or selenium from garlic, vitamin C from amla. It doesn't make sense to use food sources for every single nutrient. Sometimes there's advantages to using other forms or other sources for nutrients, either for potency, consistency, to convert them to active forms like bees, for example. But there's a nice blend so you can get the best of both worlds with those Whole Earth and Sea multis.
Incredible. Good. So, and then this is interesting because vitamin D is usually in multis, but maybe not enough, correct? So is that maybe something you would take in addition for extra boost? What are your thoughts on that? Because most multis aren't going to give you 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, correct?
That's right. And certainly if you're living, up where I am, well, anywhere, even north of, I think the cutoff line is pretty low, possibly north of Arizona, you
Yes.
probably need more vitamin D in the wintertime, because, study after study have shown that people tend to be low. Of course, vitamin D is another absolutely foundational nutrient, so important for immune health, yes. But many different aspects of health, potentially for some people, mood in the wintertime, long-term, short-term health. And that is one that a lot of people would probably want to top up on. Yes, there just isn't room in a multivitamin for optimal amounts of vitamin D for most people in the winter.
Another one that's true for is magnesium. Usually that one's not found in enough quantity, right? Strong enough dosage in a multivitamin. You want to touch on that as well?
Definitely. I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm always going on about the fact that the recommended daily intake, so this is the bare minimum that we need to for basic foundational health to prevent deficiencies is roughly 400 milligrams per day,
Mm.
every day, and that starts at age 14 onwards. Technically, it's 360 for women, but for easy math, and frankly, I think that number might be on the low side, 400 milligrams. We potentially need more if we're under stress or if we're heavy exercisers, for example. And you can get, we know, magnesium from green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds, but if you look at the amount even in those foods, you have to be eating piles and piles of cooked green leafies every single day to hit that amount on a daily basis. And magnesium is used for so much in the body that if we have a shortfall, it affects our health.
One I've been given is the magnesium bisglycinate formula by Natural Factors, and I'll pull that up here as you start discussing it here a little bit. But tell us about that specific form, the bisglycinate, as opposed, there's like 13, 14, 20 different forms of magnesium, from oxide to taurate to glycinate and citrate and all these different ones. So let's highlight that one in particular, the bisglycinate version.
Yeah, magnesium, like other minerals, doesn't travel on its own. It needs an escort or a carrier, and there's a number of those when it comes to magnesium. Magnesium citrate has been around for a long time. Sometimes I call it cheap and cheerful. It's a little bit less expensive, but some people find in especially higher amounts, it can be hard on the digestion. Magnesium bisglycinate has a wonderful advantage in that it's typically very gentle on the stomach, and so no stomach upset or loose stools for most people with
Right.
magnesium bisglycinate. So that is definitely appreciated, and it helps you then get in your magnesium. You can either top up, use one capsule a day to top up to make sure you're getting to your at least minimum recommended intake, or if you want to take more for any reason, this supports the healthy nervous system, helps with muscle, cramps and twitches. So, relaxing and promoting healthy muscles. Really nice, of course, to take at bedtime to promote a relaxing sleep quality.
Incredible. And this particular one has the bisglycinate and oxide with it. So constipation can be caused by this, being deficient in magnesium. I think it was like
Mm-hmm.
80+% of the population is deficient in magnesium. There's a lot of work by Dr. Thomas Levy, medical doctor, and a JD. He's also a lawyer. He's written a lot about magnesium. So I'm sure you mentioned it in your book, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, correct? How is it involved in
Definitely.
that regulation of our calcium homeostasis?
So important. Yes. So magnesium helps to keep calcium in check. It's an important mineral to keep it in place. Calcium and magnesium are buddies, you could say, as well as magnesium is required to convert vitamin D to its active form. So if we're taking vitamin D but deficient in magnesium, might not be activating or converting as much of that vitamin D as we need to. So that's two important ways that magnesium is involved with this whole, calcium, vitamin D picture. Now, you mentioned and pointed out on the label there with the magnesium bisglycinate, Dr. D, that there's bisglycinate and oxide. Now, some people see that and think, oh, well, why is that in there? Maybe I don't want that. The fact is that the production process, how magnesium bisglycinate is made, involves using and starting with magnesium oxide, then the glycine is added, those are reacted. So in fact, that's always there when you buy magnesium bisglycinate. Some companies have it on the label and some don't. But it's always actually in there. So just to be aware of that, it's part of the magnesium production process or magnesium bisglycinate production process.
Amazing. And all natural fat. Thanks for clarifying that. It's important. I mean, every detail on those bottles matter, right? They mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of our customers are very well informed, and they try to always make sure they read every single word on these labels. So that's going to help a lot of people. Natural Factors is one of the only companies here in our store at Healthy Habit that's ISURA certified with third-party testing. So tell us about this. This is an important thing. I think we can finish off on this note as like a grand finale. So you guys know what you're getting here when you purchase any of these products we're discussing, from the Ultimate Omega, the RX Omega-3 to the Probiotic 1212 or 1224 versions. Tell us about ISURA third-party testing.
Yeah, ISURA, that's ISURA. You'll see that word and a little flower symbol beside all products that have been has undergone this type of third-party testing, which is above and beyond even strict Canadian guidelines, which is where these products are being produced, but testing for over 800 different contaminants. And that also includes checking for GMOs, making sure that ingredients are authenticated, not adulterated. Now, this is much more important than you might think with the rising costs of everything, including ingredients. There are more instances of, say, raw materials being cut or reduced, the potency of them being reduced. And so this can be tested at the raw material stage as well as at the finished product stage. So people can go to ISURA.ca and see the kind of like CSI type testing that they're doing there. It's pretty amazing. And look at, exactly all the steps of testing that the products are going through.
You said ISURA.ca. Perfect. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I'll link that below for more. You guys can go deeper there. They have a little video there, 2.5 minute video on the homepage with a bunch of different articles and studies that they're posting regularly throughout the year. So, Dr. Kate, we're going to end it right there for episode number 112. Thank you so much for coming on. You just laid it all out right there on where we can all get started, folks, for foundational health. When it comes to supplements, we didn't really touch on diet, but this is a good starting point for people to round out their lifestyle. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Dr. Dan. Always a pleasure speaking with you.